Welcome to the book of Shmuel, bet chapter 17. We are at the height of the coup, of the successful coup. Avshalom runs against David. It's the peak. David flees the city of Jerusalem, and Avshalom has now arrived in the capital city on the seat of government, the seat of the kingdom, and he is in charge. What's he going to do next? Well, if you remember, David had an advisor named Achitofel, a brilliant advisor. The thing is, Achitofel betrayed David, and now he is with Avshalom. And so the first piece of advice Achitofel gives to Avshalom, he says, listen, if you want this coup to succeed, you need to make it happen. You need to hit it while the metal is still hot. Choose 12,000 people, go chase David, and I will go with them. And he's weak, he's vulnerable. Now is the time to hit him. I will now take David out with 12,000 people, and your kingdom will be amazingly well established. But Avshalom, because he's new to the business, or maybe for other reasons, he says, you know what? Why don't we hear another opinion, another take on this? And he says, let's call Hushai Ha'arki, also a former advisor for David. Problem is, Avshalom did not know that Hushai Arki is acting as a double agent and a spy. Hushai promised David that he'll stay in the city to secure the interests of David. And so he is asked now by Avshalom, is this a good idea to go strike David? Now remember, Hushai Arki, he's not rooting for Team Avshalom. He's pretending he is, but he's not. And so Hushai is now trying to dissuade Avshalom from really good advice, in the sense that Achitofel is correct, and Hushai tries to dissuade him, and he says, look, you know your father now, he's like an angry bear who just lost his cub. He will fight, and with fury, there's no way you can take him. And so what's going to happen is you're going to send people, David is going to crush you because he's so livid and furious, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, maybe this Avshalom guy is not that strong, he can't even defeat David. Here's my idea for you. Why don't you take a few moments, gather all the soldiers you can from Dan to Beersheba, from north to south, and then go and fight David. Why don't we see you do that? And so what happens is Avshalom listens to the advice of Hushai. He does not listen to the advice of Achitofel, which practically speaking was the better advice for him, and that's the idea. And so famously, Avshalom says, Tova atzat Hushai me'atzat Achitofel. The advice I'm getting from Hushai Arki of gathering all the soldiers possible and then attacking David, that is better than the advice of Achitofel, who's telling me to go right now and attack King David. And so Hushai says, you know what? These are the different pieces of advice. And meanwhile, Hushai is sending a message with the spies. Remember, Tzadok HaKohen and Eviatar HaKohen are in Jerusalem, also loyal to David, and they said that if there's any piece of news, their sons are going to send that news. And so Hushai secretly sends the two sons of Tzadok and Eviatar HaKohanim running to tell David, listen, either way you gotta run, because Avshalom wants to kill you. And so he sends these two sons of Tzadok and of Eviatar, and their names are Yehonatan and Achimaatz, not Yonatan, the son of Shaul, but here it's actually not Yonatan, it's Yehonatan and Achimaatz, and they go and try and inform David. The problem is, there's so many spies. Yonatan and Achimaatz, who are leaving Jerusalem on a secret mission to inform David he should run away, as they are going towards that place, someone loyal to Avshalom sees them and sees them going into the home of a woman. It reminds you of the story of Rachav in the book of Yehoshua. And he says, someone runs to Tattletale, goes to Avshalom and says, look, the two sons of the Kohanim, Yonatan and Achimaatz, I saw them running to inform David HaMelech, basically to run away. So what are we going to do? The Avshalom sends a search crew to find them. They're hiding in the backyard of a woman, and she lowers them into the well, and she covers the well. And so the policemen, the soldiers of Avshalom, of De Avshalom, come to the woman who's hiding the two spies, who is hiding Yonatan and Achimaatz, the sons of Tzadok and Evyatar HaKohanim, who are sent by Hushai HaArki, and they arrive in this woman's house to look for the two spies for David. They look all over, they don't see them. They look even at the well, but the well is covered. And so basically, they can't find these two sons. And the Avdei Avshalom ask this woman, they're like, where are these people? So she says, oh, they passed near the water and they couldn't find anything, so they left to Jerusalem. They went back to Jerusalem. Immediately after Avshalom's police leave, these two young men, Achimatz and Achimatz, it's a lot of names to remember. Achimatz and Yonatan, the sons of Tzadok and of, I'm losing track here, the sons of Tzadok and Evyatar, they come out and they run now to tell David of what's going on. So they run to David and they say, look, here's all the advice that Achitofel gave, here's all the advice that Hushai HaArki gave. Either way, time to run. And indeed, that's what happened. David decides to run away, and he crosses the Jordan. They all cross the Jordan River, running away from Avshalom. Now, Achitofel is a brilliant advisor, and he knows very well that his advice is worth gold. And he knows that if his advice is not adhered to, then it's probably not going to work. And so he knows that Avshalom is not listening to him, which means he knows that the coup is not going to succeed, which means he knows King David will eventually return to Jerusalem, which means he knows that when David comes back to Jerusalem, he will exact revenge on the traitors and the rebels. And so the second Achitofel sees his advice is not followed, he gets on his donkey, he goes to his home, he gives his last will and testimony, and he is buried the next day. That's the story of Achitofel. And so David arrives in Machanaim, which you may remember from Yaakov Avinu coming to Machanaim. David comes to Machanaim, and Avshalom now followed the advice of Hushai HaArki, and he gathers a huge army from Dan to Beersheba, a lot of people, and he puts Amasa. You may remember from previous chapters, he puts Amasa ben Yeter in charge of the army. And Amasa, interestingly, is a first cousin of Yoav, who is the head of David's army. So Amasa is the head of Avshalom's army, and Avishai is the head of David's army, and they are first cousins. A lot of names to remember here. So David comes to Machanaim, and he sees people who are friends of his or allies of his, and they give him tons of food. One of them, his name is Barzilai Giladi, from Gilad, one's name is Shovi ben Nachash from Rabat Amon, and they give David tons and tons of food and honey and dairy products, and they basically really nourish and sustain David. That has been chapter 17, Parak Yud Zayin. So what did we have here? Very quickly, we have Achitofel immediately telling Avshalom, listen, if you want this coup to succeed, hit the metal while it's still hot, get 12,000 people, chase David, and absolutely decimate his camp. Hushai HaArki, who's a double agent and a spy for David, says, wait, my dear friend Avshalom, wait until you gather some more people. Your father's so livid and angry, he's going to fight ferociously, so don't do it. And in fact, that's the advice that Avshalom follows, which gives time for two spies to run. Well, they run, then they hide in the well, then they're not caught, then they run. Eventually, they make it to David, and they go tell David to escape as far as possible. And in fact, that's what happens. David escapes. Avshalom recruits all the people. Achitofel is like, I'm done because I know David's going to come back and destroy me. So he goes bye-bye, and that is, and then David is greeted by Barzilai Giladi and others who give him lots of food. That has been Parak Yud Zayin. Stay tuned for the end of the coup, Parak Yud Chet.